Hi, I'm Elio,
And I'm Bruce.
and we're from the Coalition for the Protection of Racehorses. CPR was formed back in 2008 after a 2-year investigation into the racing industry.
Behind the glamorous facade of the racing industry is a very grim reality. We wanted to shine a light on this and provide a voice for the magnificent animals that form the backbone of the industry. So, what are the problems with horse racing?
Well, firstly, there's jumps racing. Horses who sled for flat racing are made to jump over obstacles at high speed over distances as long as 5.5 kilometres.
There's whips. Yeah, right, it doesn't hurt. If it didn't hurt, why use them?
Then there's 2-year-old racing that races these horses way too young.
And then there's the wastage issue. That's right. The racing industry calls horses who leave the racing industry wastage. There's no retirement plan for horses, so you know what that means.
So what did we do? Well, firstly, we started our campaign to end jumps racing. We filmed, we protested, we chanted, we made as much noise as we possibly could. And the media was starting to listen, and so were ordinary Australians. We even held a funeral for jumps racing. And finally we felt heard with Racing Victoria announcing 2010 would be the last year of jumps racing. Sadly, and perhaps inevitably, it was reinstated shortly after due to industry pressure. So our protests continued, but they couldn't hear us. So we tried a different tack and invited ourselves to their boardroom meeting. And this is what happened.
And you've allowed this sport to continue. Do you have anything to say about this Racing Victoria?
And still nothing changed.
So we re-evaluated. We realised that in order to effect change, we were going to have to change focus. As it stood, jumps racing was generating its own bad publicity and hanging by a thread. So we thought it was time to focus on the key issue of concern, wastage, and one we felt we could potentially combat with a plan to help these horses escape their fate, a retirement plan for racehorses. Why hadn't anyone thought of this before?
We formally submitted our rehabilitation and retirement proposal to the Australian Racing Board in November 2013. Surprise, surprise, it was flatly rejected. They say they love their horses, so why were so many being sent to slaughter?
Our proposal was simple. We asked that 1% of all betting turnover was fed back into a retirement plan, so that every racehorse is given the opportunity to be rehabilitated and rehomed. Is that asking too much? But the message wasn't quite getting through. We needed a plan. So we thought, how about we erect a giant billboard with an image of a dead horse, strategically placed between 2 spring racing carnival billboards, asking people, is the party really worth it?
It sounded like a good idea.
It was a brilliant idea, because the racing industry wanted it pulled down. The media loved it. Every time an article appeared, it had a picture of our billboard. We never thought our billboard would be so popular.
Then they managed to pull it down after only 5 days.
So that was bad news.
No, that was good news, because then the media did another round of stories about the infamous billboard being removed. For the first time ever, the racing industry was under siege and their brand was taking a battering. A little bit like the racehorses in the last 100 metres of a race.
As always, CPR was at the main spring carnival events with our ominous question, is the party really worth it? They pulled down our billboard, but we had another idea up our sleeve, the mobile billboard.
Is the party really worth it?
The message was getting out there.
And then tragically, Admire Rakti died from a heart attack in the Melbourne Cup. The media that followed and the public outrage at the treatment of racehorses was unprecedented. And so for the first time ever, people were asking themselves, is the party really worth it?